guys? Welcome into the playoff primer edition of the Squirrel Report. We got so much in store for you today. We're talking streaming defenses. We got insurance running backs, as well as a naughty and nice list of all of the good and bad playoff matchups and schedules for the rest of your fantasy playoffs. Guys, we're here to get you ready. Make sure you win yourself a championship. So without further ado, let's get to it. Defense wins championships. They just do, guys. It's science.
Yes, science.
Since all of us here love science, we're going to talk about defenses. And if you're looking for a streaming defense while you're in the fantasy playoffs, which I, like most smart people, consider to be weeks 15 through 17, I'd first take a look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They got a great schedule, but they're only available in about 40% of leagues right now. So if you can't find them, how about the Los Angeles Rams? I mean, don't get me wrong, they just got blown up by Lamar and the Ravens, and they've had their fair share of struggles this year, no doubt. But their upcoming schedule has some really tasty QB matchups, and that's what you're looking for when you're considering streaming defenses. So here in week 15, they get Sam Howell and the Commanders. It's an okay matchup, right? Howell has been pretty good this year. Like I said, it's okay, not great. But then in week 16, they get Derek Carr or maybe Jameis Winston and the Saints, and that doesn't scare you at all. Like, not even a little bit. And in week 17, they get who? Tommy DeVito and the New York Football Giants? I mean, this is not the kind of list that has you shaking in your boots. So if you need a streaming defense that you can add right now for your fantasy playoffs, add the Los Angeles Rams to your holiday wish list. It has been a brutal year for injuries, hasn't it? I mean, it feels like every single week we're losing multiple guys. It sucks. And this year, it just feels extra egregious. Nobody enjoys this. But as a fantasy manager, what you gotta try and do is prepare for the unknown. That means targeting a high upside insurance back for the back end of your roster in the fantasy playoffs. Guys like Keaton Mitchell. I mean, he has not seen nearly enough volume, but he gives me serious Devon Achane vibes, right? A super explosive running back that could take it to the house on any given play. I mean, right now, he's stuck behind Gus Edwards and some quarterback named Lamar Jackson. But if anything happens to Gus Edwards, or if they just decide to give Mitchell a little extra run heading into the fantasy playoffs, you would love to have an explosive running back like this on the fourth highest scoring team in the NFL. All right, another guy to consider, Tajay Spears. The Titans offense is not spectacular, but if anything happened to Derrick Henry, Spears would immediately be the guy. And we've seen him be really successful in small doses this year. Plus, he's a really great pass catcher when given the opportunities. And they've got a pretty nice schedule down the stretch. I mean, you just want to target guys that have some kind of upside. Even someone like Zamir White in case Josh Jacobs misses any time. So yeah, those are the kind of guys you're out looking for if you're still in the playoff hunt. So first, congratulations that you made it there. I knew you could do it. I'm so proud of you. And second, go out there and see if you can find yourself a free insurance back off of the waiver list. If I had one wish that I could wish this holiday season, it would be for all the linemen in the NFL to join hands and sing together in the spirit of harmony and peace. If I had two wishes that I could make this holiday season, the first would be for all the linemen in the NFL to join hands and sing in a spirit of harmony and peace. And the second would be for 200 extra fantasy points to be given to me to be added to my team any week throughout the season as I see fit. You know, if I can make three wishes this holiday season, the first, of course, would be for all the linemen to get together and sing. The second would be for 200 extra fantasy points given to me. And the third would be for unlimited trade power over every member of my league to carry out any move as I see fit. And if I had four wishes that I can make this holiday season, the first would be the crap about the tugboat lineman, done. The second would be for the 200 extra fantasy points. The third would be for all the trade power. And the fourth would be to set aside one weekend each year to recreate my own tush push in the honeymoon suite of the Bellagio with my lovely wife, who was behind this idea 100%. And of course, three others of my choosing. Jeff Saturday would absolutely catch an invite with how Peyton Manning described those buns. Now, wait a minute. Maybe the tush push should be the first thing, so I'll make that the first wish because it can all go boom tomorrow, and then what do you got, you know? No, the linemen singing would be great. That would be nice. But wait a minute, who am I kidding? They can't all sing. The Eagles' Christmas album is an anomaly. I mean, the rest of the league cannot be that good. I don't need pitchy big guys serenading me. Okay, so we reorganize. Here we go. First, the tush push thing. We go with that. Second, the fantasy points. No, No, we go with the trade power second, and then the fantasy points, and then the lineman. Oh, funky butt-lovin', I forgot about revenge against Arthur Smith. Okay, I need revenge against Arthur Smith because he should be delivering packages for FedEx, not delivering carries and targets to everyone but his stars. That would be my fourth wish. And of course, my fifth wish would be for all the linemen in the NFL to join hands and sing together in a spirit of harmony and fantasy victory. Thank you, everybody, and happy holidays. And live from Bristol, Connecticut, it's Fantasy Focus Live! I'm not sure if you realize it this year, but Sam Howell is QB 8 so far. I did not have that on my holiday bingo card for 2023. But I am a little less than excited heading into the fantasy playoffs because his schedule is not great. He'll face the Jets and the 49ers over the next 3 weeks. Both of those are top 3 in fewest points allowed to fantasy quarterbacks. And this offense is just so frustrating. I mean, Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson are both really good wide receivers, and yet they disappear, seemingly for games at a time. So yeah, Howell has kept a high floor by utilizing his legs and scoring some rushing touchdowns, but these are not the kind of defenses that you want to face with your quarterback going into the fantasy playoffs trying to keep your dreams alive. No, starting Sam Howell is like coming home with a D on your report card in November. You're definitely not getting an Xbox for Christmas anymore. And it's for that reason that Sam Howell makes the fantasy playoff naughty list. Guys, this one hurts. I'm really not excited about David Montgomery's playoff schedule. I mean, the Lions team has looked rough over the last couple of weeks. 2 losses in their last 3 games, and this running back split has not been in his favor. Jahmyr Gibbs has outsnapped David Montgomery 120-78 over the last 3 games. And Gibbs has just been way more efficient, averaging over 6 yards per carry to Montgomery's 4.5. Gibbs has also seen way more yards before contact and way more usage in the passing game. So yeah, not only is Jahmyr Gibbs not going away, it's just obvious he's got more juice in his step. Now listen, I'm not totally out on David Montgomery because he's still a top 10 running back this year. But he gets the Broncos in week 15, who are a lot better than they used to be against the run. They're 13th against fantasy running backs over the last 3 weeks. And then they get the Vikings and the Cowboys, both of whom are top 7 against the run. Montgomery will still be a low-end RB2 or high-end flex play, but he is not going to be ranked as a top 10 running back throughout the fantasy playoffs, even though that's where he's been for most of the season. So I'm lowering my playoff expectations for David Montgomery. I mean, he's still a PlayStation, but he's more like a PSP used in certain situations rather than a full-on PS5 with all the bells and whistles he had at the beginning of the season. And it's because of that, David Montgomery makes the fantasy playoff naughty list this holiday season. All right, guys, let's talk about Tyreek Hill, because this is like the equivalent of getting coal in your stocking, which I already don't understand as a weird holiday tradition. First, what is a stocking? And what are they supposed to be used for the other 364 days of the year? Do they have any other jobs? Do they just sit in a box somewhere? And does anyone get anything other than tchotchkes or candy or scratch-offs in your stockings? And why are we putting coal in them anyways? We're talking about Tyreek Hill, and this is not the schedule you want if you are a Tyreek Hill manager. Now, I know, if there's one guy that's literally matchup proof, it's gotta be Tyreek. And we are gonna start him every single week, but that doesn't mean that we want the hardest possible schedule. He is getting the Jets, Cowboys, and Ravens in weeks 15 through 17. That is brutal. The Jets allow the fewest points per game to fantasy wide receivers. The Cowboys allow the 7th fewest points per game to wide receivers. And the Ravens are top 12 at shutting down pass catchers. And none of that factors in Tyreek's ankle injury. I mean, he is going to need some major games to hit 2,000 receiving yards, and it is not getting any easier. At least we did not have to put a cast on Tyreek's stocking, but I am not thrilled for fantasy's top wide receiver. This schedule is tough, and that is why Tyreek Hill is on my fantasy playoff naughty list. Dakota Rain Prescott has been about as good as it gets at the quarterback position in 2023. Since week 6, Dak is QB1, averaging 26.7 fantasy points per game. That's over 3 fantasy points more per game than the number 2 quarterback. And I don't think this is going to slow down at all. with the Cowboys playing the Bills, Dolphins, and Lions over the next 3 weeks. So let's start with the tough one, all right? I know that Miami has been good, but they did just allow Will Levis to throw for over 325 yards and a touchdown. So not a great matchup, but certainly beatable for Dak and the boys. And over the last 5 games, the Bills have allowed the 12th most fantasy points to quarterbacks on their way to a 7-6 record. This Bills defense is just not what it used to be. And don't even get me started on the Lions' defense, if we can still call it that. I mean, thank the Lord for the Philadelphia Eagles, because they are the only team that's allowing more points to quarterbacks than the Lions. I mean, Detroit's secondary has been awful, and this is a perfect matchup heading into a potential fantasy championship. So as much as it hurts my heart to say this, if you've got Dakota Rain Prescott on your roster, his schedule makes the fantasy playoff nice list. Oh, dear Lord in heaven, here we go again. Are we really going to talk about an Atlanta Falcon as someone you want to consider in the fantasy playoffs? Well, honestly, if that Falcon is Bijan Robinson, the answer is a resounding yes. Over the last 4 weeks, Bijan is running back 7, averaging 19.3 fantasy points per game. And that coincided with him seeing increased usage. It was a crazy idea. But thankfully, 8 weeks after the rest of us already knew what to do, Arthur Smith finally got there. And looking at this playoff schedule, it is just in time. The Panthers, Colts, and Bears are terrible against running backs. Literally, the Panthers and Colts allow the 3rd and 4th most fantasy points to running backs this year. And the Chicago Bears allow the 10th most. 3 straight games against bottom 10 run defenses, it just literally doesn't get any better than that. And sure, there is some volatility in this backfield given the coaching staff. But Bijan, with everything that he has done, has earned himself a spot on the nice list after putting up with Arthur Smith all season long. You know what? Sometimes even a naughty guy can make the nice list. And that's the case for our final player, DK Metcalf. Well, he's had a few on-the-field run-ins that Santa is not a fan of, but he's got a sweet schedule for your championship run. First up, the Philadelphia Eagles, who are dead last in fantasy points to wide receiver. There is so much goodness in this matchup, Santa's going to need to call in the backup reindeer to help deliver all of your fantasy points. Then he gets the Titans, who are allowing the 6th most fantasy points to wide receivers this year. They've given up at least 15 fantasy points to 10 different wide receivers. Even if Drew Lock is under center, DK is in a great spot to produce against Tennessee. And lastly, it's the Steelers, who are middle of the pack in terms of fantasy points allowed. But they have given up some huge games to wide receivers this year. So there is plenty to be thankful for if you are a DK manager. That is why DeKalin Zacharias Metcalf ends up on the fantasy playoff nice list. All right, that's going to do it for us here at the Squirrel Report. We will be back in a few weeks for one final end-of-year wrap-up show, and we cannot wait for that, I promise. That's going to be a ton of fun. Until then, be good to each other, be kind to yourself, good luck in the fantasy playoffs. We'll see you in a couple weeks.